Okay, it says we're live, so I've got to check all of our feeds real quick and see if we are live, actually. Okay, I see us in my group. So that means I should see us on my page.
Greetings.
Yep, I see us on my page. I see us in the group. So that means the next one should be in my YouTube. So that should be there. Let's check and see, shall we? Don't you guys love all this technology?
I love it and hate it. We have a love-hate relationship.
Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, this is easy, or that's easy. And then you get on it and it's like, yeah, it isn't easy.
I know. It's temperamental. That's the problem. It's easy when everything works the way you want it to. And then as soon as you change one little thing, it has a cascade effect. And then it's a mess, in my experience.
Yeah. Hang on here just a second.
Did you say we're live?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't pick my nose or anything.
We are. Okay. We are on YouTube. We are in the group and we are on the Facebook page. So the connections worked. We probably should start talking to everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Author D.L. Lane, and we are going to chat today with, well, I should say excuse me if I seem weird. I've had a crazy week and I'm tired. Eric Bryan Moore is a narrator, and M.K. Blackwood is a narrator. And it's been a week for me. Let me just say it like that. That's all I'm going to say. And we had a bunch of technical difficulties when we tried to go live, but we are here now.
We made it.
Yay. Oh, Diane says, looks and sounds good. Julie says, hi, everyone. I can see you this time, Julie. I can. So we are going to probably talk about our newest audiobook release and see where we go from there. We also have some questions to answer. The newest audiobook release for us is Lyric, which is book 1.5 of my Delta Security series. I've had some people ask about Delta Security, so I will answer that real quick, and then we'll move on and talk with MK and Brian, or Eric. Sorry, Brian. I tell you guys don't know how my week has been.
I think this will be a fun one.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Delta Security is about a group of men who were former Navy SEALs, and they have a security company. All of the books are contemporary romance suspense. And right now, we are on book 1.5 in audio, and we will be moving on to Reaper here sometime soon because his book will release this fall. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, unless MK and Eric have anything they would like to add.
Nailed it.
Okay. I'm going to get to some questions, and then I think Eric and MK have a cool surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Interpretive dance competition.
Yeah. It's a dance battle.
Mm-hmm. Is it? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay, here's some questions. And if anybody has any questions, they can type them in. We'll see them because I'll bounce back and forth. I've got my phone between the little screen over here on StreamYard that I use and then the feed on Facebook because it doesn't always show them all for some reason. It's weird. So the first question is, I want more of more. I got a kick out of that. I want more of Moore and Blackwood. They are the perfect pair to be narrating your Delta Security series. When will they start on Reaper? Well, like I was just saying, Reaper will come out in the fall, and then it takes us a little bit to coordinate between their schedules and my schedules. So I can't say exactly when Reaper will come out on audiobook, but it will happen, right, guys?
It'll happen. Yes.
Julie says, I just finished Tinsley today. I love the characters so much. Gotta get into gotta get into Cowboy and Lyric ASAP. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. I'm glad you was able to listen to that today. Our second question is, do you have any blooper reels? That would be for you guys. Do you have any blooper reels? And if you do, can we hear them?
I don't.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, and I probably would. They all end up with me crying. So
Swearing,
yeah, like, I don't. Why
cursing,
can't I do this job? Say the
yelling into
words.
the void.
Yeah.
I know. I've
Uh,
started to possibly, I don't know if I'm going to do this or not, but since I punch and roll, when I make a mistake, I go back and I record over it. So the only way for me to have a blooper reel would be if I keep the mistake and I sort of drag it into another track and then have a little reel. So it's something I'm considering doing for fun. Um, but there isn't really a way to do it unless you intentionally save those mistakes. But it is a funny idea. I do like that idea. And I did post a little blooper that I had recently to my social media. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I might
I
dabble
I heard that one.
in the
You crack up laughing. It's cute.
I know. That's funny.
Okay, question number 3. It says, please tell me, DL, will we find out about Gabe and Lyric's lives while they were apart? Yes, you will find out about their lives while they were apart and the things that went on with them. And some of it's kind of going to be brought out in a slow manner, and others will be kind of hit you in the face head on. So, yes, you're going to find out.
You get that
It's
question a
coming.
lot, don't you?
Yes. Yes. You will find out. I'm not going to leave you hanging as to what happened to them when they were apart. You're going to know. The next question. Thank you for creating the world of Delta Security. You're welcome. Thank you for enjoying it. I was hooked from the start, but there was just something about the brooding Reaper. I had to know more. His backstory with Lyric was absolutely amazing. Thank you. And the narrators were absolutely amazing. I agree. What of the series so far has been your favorite?
Ooh. I I think Lyric has been my favorite so far, just because it was such a fun challenge to age up the characters, and I have a feeling I'm gonna say that about each one. Like, about Cowboy was my favorite, then when we get to Reaper, I'm probably gonna say Reaper is my favorite. Um, I think Reaper is my favorite character, so that's initially why also Lyric has been my favorite, just because we got a little more Gabe, and I think I'm gonna like doing Reaper too for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I second that. So far, Cowboy got pretty dark for me.
Mm.
That was a dark one to narrate at times. So like getting into Cowboy, actually, even though he's kind of sorry, getting into Reaper, even though people refer to him as the brooding one, it feels so much lighter. Even though he has that really heavy beginning, it
Mhm.
wasn't as heavy for me as Cowboy's beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
They're both
For
heavy.
me, as the
Yeah.
writer, it's hard for me to say that I have a favorite because I like all my characters. But there are certain things in each book that kind of stand out to me as being my favorites. And Lyrics Lyric and Gabe's story kind of touches me in a way. I've cried several times when I wrote Lyric, and I've cried several times writing Reaper. So I'm hoping that when you guys get his story, you're going to love it. It says, as an avid reader and audiobook listener, this is a good question. As an avid reader and audiobook listener, what can I do to support authors and narrators from being swept aside and replaced by AI?
That is a great question. And it's kind of complicated to answer because the landscape is changing so rapidly that it almost feels like a wildfire a little bit. Like it's hard to know what you can do to help, and then things shift. Like there's a wind that changes and takes things in a different direction, and all of a sudden we have to pivot and figure something else out. I think that being vocally against it and showing your support for human voices, human writers is huge. I also think just stay informed. There's a lot of really helpful about what's happening. I don't know if you guys are aware of the strike with WGA and SAG-AFTRA right now, but they are also having a battle against the robots, if you will. And there's a lot of interesting things happening over there as well. So I definitely think not being like a bystander to what's happening, but staying informed is like the first most important thing. And voicing your support, especially like in reviews. I don't know if this is what everyone would suggest, but if you find out something was AI narrated and you didn't like it, mention it. I think that that's helpful for people to realize that, people can tell, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Like MK said, I guess the best vote of confidence or the best vote would be to vote with your money. Just
Yeah.
buy the narrators and the authors that you like and support them, and hopefully at least they'll keep trucking along. But the
I,
AI is
I,
coming, until
Yeah.
yeah.
Arnold
I mean,
Schwarzenegger pops out naked and he starts to chase down Sarah Connors. It's on the way.
yeah, I agree. I think that you as readers and listeners, you as purchasers, consumers have a huge voice. If you
Yeah.
don't purchase it, if you don't support it with your money, that's going to make a huge impact.
Yeah.
The thing is going to be, it's going to be getting harder and harder to tell as it improves and improves. Right now you can tell what an AI written book is. I've seen one. There's just no doubt about it. And right now you can tell what an AI narrator is. There's just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I think, and one of my friends that I was talking to the other day that was in a group that I was in purchased an AI narrated book by accident because she didn't know it was AI narrated. And so she returned it and complained. So I think it's up to the consumers to keep, like Eric said and MK said, be vocal. Don't let them have your money, and support the authors and the narrators that you love, that you um, feel passionate for, and that's what I think the best we can do for now, because like MK said, it's constantly evolving and changing.
Yeah.
That was an excellent question.
Yeah. And one we can address again at a later point when we have more information too.
Yeah, because like you said, it's just exploding. Everything is
Mm,
just AI this, AI that. It's just exploding. It's
yeah.
almost like a wild, wild west. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of lawsuits coming
Yes.
for copyright problems, theft of intellectual property, things like that. And I think that it'll take some time, but I think that's going to start to make a big impact as well.
Yeah. I think Sarah Silverman has a big lawsuit right now. I think
Yeah,
she's suing, I don't know if it was ChatGPT for copyright.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's several authors that are going after their copyright status, as well they
Yeah.
should, as
Yeah.
well they should. So the next question is, Delta Security is set in Seattle. Have any of you ever been to Seattle?
Many times.
I have not.
I had my dad lived up there for a long time, so I visited Seattle many times.
Oh,
I
cool.
I've been to Seattle many years ago. I'm going to say 15, 16 years ago. So I haven't been there in a long time, but I have been there. I have
I
It's a
been
would
there.
love
cool,
to go.
it's a cool city. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if I could live there. Like the outside of Washington, I think Washington is just a gorgeous state. Just
Yeah. It seems
rain,
like it.
you know, you get all the green trees that are lovely, but man, that rain would be a little bit
I
rough.
know. I
yeah,
live in a place that's sunny almost every day, and I think it would be shocking for me to have to move somewhere where, although I did grow up in Massachusetts where we had weather, but yeah. I
yeah,
don't know. I feel like it's an aesthetic that's really appealing to me, the sort of cloudy, rainy. I love it, but yeah, I've never
yeah,
been, so I don't know what it's like.
yeah.
I
Lots
guess
of
as a
rain.
narrator, we never leave the house, right? So it's not,
Yes, it might work. Unless you have a situation where it's like really stormy and you can't record or something.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those trees, blow down, hit a power line.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't
Right.
know if I can handle like a real winter. After what 12, 13 years of living in Brazil, like a real winter would probably
Oh yeah.
devastate me.
Yeah. I
I'm not
know.
prepared.
You
I
wouldn't
don't
know
even
what to do.
I don't even own a jacket.
Yeah.
yeah, because it's always warm there, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, like when it's cold, like right now it's winter, so like I have sleeves,
Yeah.
but it's not cold.
Yeah.
I've just
That's
been a
like where
baby.
I am too. Yeah. Although I think that I don't know if my blood has gotten thinner or something because I will like wear a beanie and a huge sweatshirt and a coat when it's like 50, 60 degrees outside. And my family will be like, "What has happened? What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I'm cold."
yeah. Well, and where I live, we get snow once in a while, but we don't have a lot of snow here where I'm at. Now, other parts of Tennessee get slammed, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. Julie said, I would also say support in person author and narrator events if and when you can. They are amazing, and AI will never give you that experience. That's true.
That is a great point.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. AI can't show up to those events and shake your hand, can it?
No.
Let's see. This is the last question. Do you enjoy listening to audiobooks since you record so many of them? And if you do, what was the last audiobook you listened to for enjoyment?
That's a
Yeah, I
great
love
question.
I wish I
Yeah.
had more time to listen to them, but I love them. I'm in the middle of a series called Black by I don't know who the Russell is Russell something is the author, but the narrator is R.C. Bray, and he's one of my
Mm.
Wow.
favorites. I've listened to a lot of stuff he does.
Mm.
Matter of fact, he's the first narrator I ever reached out to, and he actually got me a book with a publisher. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
I love listening to audiobooks. I love reading, but I very rarely get the chance to do either because I'm always working on my stuff. And of course, I listen to my audiobooks numerous times by the time it's all said and done because I listen to the audio files as they come through and stuff. But the last audiobook I listened to, I don't know. Let me take a look at my Audible app here, shall I? And then I could tell you what it was. I'll tell you what the last one was I listened to. Second here. The last one that I listened to or started to listen to until I got sidetracked and had to go and do something else was A Light in the Flame by Jennifer L. Almatrot. She
Ooh.
has some really cool fantasy romance works. So that was the last one. And I haven't finished that one yet because I have to go back and finish it. It's still sitting there waiting for me to finish.
Oh, it is hard to make time for it. I used to read a lot, and I have a book club, and it was a huge hobby of mine. And the busier I get, which is great, the less time that I have to read. So I probably have like 10 books that I'm working my way through that I've started and haven't had a chance to finish. I'm
Yeah.
like listening to Pen Pal, the JT Geisinger book, which
Hmm.
is so good. And I'm also listening to The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, which is like a really fun, it's like a woman who's like middle-aged and she has a child, but she was like a mercenary and like basically goes back to do one more mission sort of a thing. It's like a big sea adventure. It's really cool. Actually, I just remembered the last audiobook I finished, which is a really good one for summer if you like horror, is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. If you're afraid of bees, not for you. But it's sort of got like summer camp horror, weird supernatural bee cult vibes,
Wow.
which is a weird description, I realize, but that's all I could think
I
of.
wouldn't I
It's
wouldn't have put
good
that.
though.
I wouldn't have that's wild.
It's
A
a horror
a
about bees. Yeah.
bee cult supernatural
And
horror,
it's a
huh? Wow.
mystery. It was cool too because the audiobook, I think it won an award, and it's kind of an immersive experience. They have not experience. I used to do immersive theater, and immersive is a buzzword, and that's a whole other conversation. But the audio, they have a lot of sound effects. So there's like noises of the forest, and there's bee buzzing, and I was listening to it on a walk at one point, and I forgot that there were sound effects in it, and I thought there was like a swarm of bees following me at one
Oh
point, and
no.
I was on the bike path behind our place, and I was like swatting at the air, like, fuck, you know.
Oh no.
And I was like, wait, it's in the audio, you dummy.
Yeah.
So it's a really good one, though. I
You
recommend it.
know, those audiobooks with all of those sound effects and stuff are very intriguing.
They
I
are,
listened to
yeah.
one, it was hilarious. It was funny because I can't remember the title of it, but she was like needing to call a helpline. And
Okay.
so there was all of this weird, like it sounded like they were over the phone and she was caught in a car and she was trying to get help. And it was really funny. And it had all these different sound effects. I know some people don't like sound effects. I think maybe it
Yeah.
just depends on how it's done. But I
Yeah.
really thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that they can be interesting. And like for the honeys, it wasn't throughout the whole book. It was just specific scenes. And it came in so gradually that you didn't notice it at first. And you kind of, it was sort of just like this slow build. And then all of a sudden you became aware of it at like the exact moment that they wanted you to. It was
Yeah,
very well done. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's fun. I'm trying to think like what sounds could we have put in lyric. Definitely some horses in the background.
Yeah, yeah, we could have, but I don't know. But there is something in Reaper we'll talk about that might need a sound. We'll talk about
Oh,
that because I was
ooh,
thinking about it today when I had to go backtrack because I was interrupted this weekend a lot
yeah.
with some rough stuff. And so I had to go back today and sort of backtrack and read. And I thought, that section might be really impactful if it had a sound effect. But then I don't know because none of the rest of the stories have sound effects. But there's just something about it that hit me as that might be really impactful to have a sound effect. We'll talk
Hmm.
about
Yeah, I'm
that.
curious. Very curious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's just say there's things busting and breaking and glass shattering.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking, that might be something that would we might need a little bit of a sound effect there. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it because, like I said, we don't do sound effects in the books, but
It is hard though. I've had a couple situations as a narrator under another name that I narrate under where sound effects are written out in the book,
mhm,
and
yeah,
you have to figure out how am I going to express this? And
yeah,
one time it was the word bang, and I was it was requested that I make it really startling. And every time I did it, I was like, this is awful for people's ears. Like, and it really took some creative thought to figure out how I was going to isolate and make it
yeah,
startling without blowing out my microphone or anything. It was challenging, but you get
yeah,
that sometimes.
I
Have you
love
had to
yeah,
doing.
do that, Eric?
Oh yeah, I love doing them.
Bang,
yeah,
crash.
Yeah, yeah. The first time is the narrator I'm listening to right now, R.C. Bray. I've heard him do bang, and I'm always like,
Yeah.
whoa! It's really impactful because he does a lot of
Yeah.
action, and so
Oh, that's
whenever I
cool.
get a chance to do it, I do it. But there is that problem of you you blow up your microphone, so like then
Yeah.
I got to go back and like do it like all right, I got to do a little bit off microphone, do a little bit
Yeah.
down. But I still got to make it kind of in the flow, but not too shot. So it is a little bit of work. So it's usually
yeah.
about the fifth bang I can actually leave in.
Yeah.
When I wrote under a pen name and I worked with a couple that did duet narration, they added sound effects every time there was an alarm, every time
Mm.
the phone rang, every time the doorbell rang, those type of things. They added sound effects.
Wow.
Wow.
But the one thing I will say is when it went through the processing in on A6, they tagged one of them and tried to fix it, and it sounds
Oh,
weird. It's like I
oh,
think they
weird.
thought it was a mistake or something. So
Oh,
that's what
yeah.
worries me on if we do a lot of sound effects, are they gonna like try to say, this
Right.
is, you know what? I don't know. They did something because it was like a buzzer sound
Mm.
and they tried to fix it. So instead of a buzzer, it comes out.
Oh, no. Well, that's a whole other thing too, is like when the audiobooks make it to these, retail platforms, they get compressed sometimes. So
Yeah.
what you're hearing when you're working in your booth, high quality files, that could sound different than the finished product that the readers actually hear.
Yeah.
So I'd be scared about that, definitely.
Yeah. That me too. Me too, because it did happen. Now, it didn't happen until that one specific buzzer sound, like the doorbells, the alarm clocks, the telephones, that stuff that they put in it. They left it, but something about that buzzer sound, they did something to it. So it doesn't
That's
really
so
sound like a
weird.
buzzer. It sounds like a
That's so weird. That's kind of
yeah.
funny. It
Yeah.
almost feels like a little Easter egg, like, now you know what I mean? If people get to that part in the book and they find it, they're like, "Oh, the buzzer."
Yeah, it was like, oh no. But there's nothing I could do about it after the fact, I don't guess.
Right.
But anyway,
I find I actually have to hold myself back with regular words to not make it like if I say I cracked my head, I'll read it like I cracked my head because I just like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
I do
yeah,
that too sometimes, and I feel like I know that they say, like, focus more on the storytelling and the acting and the emotion, but I also feel like words can have really cool textures, and when you're
yeah,
listening to it and someone is playing with the language in that way, I think it can sound really cool. And I think it can be effective in, like, because I would imagine as the author, you chose that word because of what it evokes, and
right,
the sound you imagine it makes or the feeling it
right.
makes. And
And like we'll
yeah,
italicize certain words because it's either we're hearing it because it's a
yeah,
sound, or we'll italicize words that we're thinking, or emphasize words. So we are kind of limited in how we can get it across, where you guys can really get it across.
yeah. I have a question for you because I feel like as a narrator, when you're in the booth and you're in those action scenes, you are obviously getting physical with it. Like, your face, your body, like you can't help but react to what's happening. When you're writing those scenes, do you ever like notice yourself like emoting or like getting kind of excited and worked up and like you're kind of moving around a little bit?
Yeah.
Or are you like blank?
No, no,
Honestly.
because like I was writing a specific scene recently, and that was like it really got me. Like I was really into it because it has to do with action and stuff. And then there's another scene that comes right after it, and like I burst into tears.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I do, and it's but to me they're real. I know they're not real, but they're real in my head. I mean, I see it, and so
Right.
yeah, I definitely move around and stuff when I type, and the emotions of the characters come through to me as I'm
Yeah.
typing. So sometimes I chuckle, sometimes I frown.
Is that the equivalent of laughing at your own jokes?
Yeah.
Probably, but I would too.
Yeah. But
It is funny,
it's not like I'm laughing at myself. I'm laughing at that
the characters.
character that said something that wanted me to say it that way as I'm typing it, because I've often said this. I know it sounds completely nutso, but if I don't do what my characters are wanting me to do because they're telling me their story and
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it out of my head onto the paper, I always end up going back and redoing it if I don't follow what they want done because theirs is best.
I wish I could be a fly on the wall watching you write and seeing how you react to everything. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's cool.
Yeah.
That's why it's so authentic when you read what you wrote because everything feels like it flows really well and organically and realistically, and that makes a lot of sense if you're feeling things when you're writing it.
Yeah.
That just translates to the page, definitely.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's always in the back of my mind. Is this going to translate? Is this going to translate?
Yeah.
Um, Julie asked Eric EMK, how did you get into narrating?
Ladies first.
I knew you were gonna say that. Um, it's sort of been it's I guess the short story is I've been working towards this moment, it feels like for a very long time without realizing it. I'm an actor. I have a theater degree. I have worked professionally as an actor in LA for years. Um, but I also love books and grew up next to a library. As I mentioned before, I'm part of a book club. So for me, I made the connection when we were sort of in the heart of the pandemic and everything shut down. I was actually in the process of trying to start a theater company with a few friends of mine. Obviously, that wasn't going to be a possibility because we would not have been able to perform. Um, and I was meeting with my book club, and I think I said something like, I just wish that I could get paid to read. And everybody looked at me like, you're an idiot. You can. Because even though I had listened to audiobooks and I was aware of them, it just never occurred to me that it was something that I could do. So I just dove in and I had, time. The job that I had everything had shut down. So I was able to just devote almost 100% of my time to figuring it out. And it has been the best decision I've ever made for myself because it's just such a perfect fit for me, for my passions, my interests, and my skills. And yeah, I love it. So here I am. Never look back.
And I'm glad you're here doing it.
Yeah. And I
I
still
am
do
so.
other things too. Like I'll still do theater, but I really love this. I don't miss theater as much as I thought I would because this is so fulfilling artistically. It's been nice.
How about you, Eric?
You, Seth?
Yeah, I had one of those duh moments too. So originally I'm an actor from the Bay Area, California. Then I realized if I was going to continue to be an actor, I should probably move to like LA or New York, and I didn't want to do either of those things. And so I went to Japan for a year, and I ended up being there for 6 years. Uh, Owned a bar for a while, drank too much, met a Brazilian woman, moved to Brazil, and I was here for probably 3 or 4 years teaching English in Sao Paulo, which is this massive city where I'm on a bus every day commuting for hours to go from place to place to teach. And the entire time I was listening to audiobooks, complaining about how much I miss acting and realizing I'll never be an actor again because, what are the chances of acting down here? And then I did a couple of voiceovers for some advertising agencies down here that were sending their stuff to Cannes, the commercial festivals. And it just hit me one day. I was on the bus complaining, like, man, I'm doing these voiceovers. I miss acting. I'm complaining about it. I'm feeling depressed. The entire time I'm listening to tons of books. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should just try and do this. And then I convinced the family to move to a house where I could build myself a terrible little studio. And I started working. And
And I'm
luckily,
glad you did. I'm glad both of you did. I
Yeah.
am
it
so
was
happy.
one of those moments where like I should have probably figured it out a couple of years earlier.
Me too. I feel that way too. Like, how did it not occur to me sooner? Because this is what I've been looking for such a long time. And it's, I think a lot of narrators are a bit introverted and are very creative people. But I know one thing that I struggled with a lot when I was doing theater and some independent films was like putting myself out there and having to network and go to parties. And it felt like more of the job was me branding myself and selling myself and trying to figure out what my type was. And I just didn't feel artistically fulfilled as often as I have as a narrator. And part of that could be timing and luck and how I've been able to work as much as I have too, that I've been able to kind of keep my plate full. So I do feel artistically fulfilled. But even if, it was a lull, I'm having so much more fun, I feel like, in this lane than I have in a long time. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. I'm sure glad you guys are doing this. Of course, you guys know I adore you, so
Right back at
that's
you.
okay. So, are you guys ready for your surprise? Because, you told me that you might read something live. I have no idea what you're going to read. So, whatever you're doing is a surprise to me as well as it is for the listeners and watchers.
The Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
I'm gonna be here
I
for a while.
love that.
I do too.
You know what would actually be really fun? And I feel like I'm going to put this idea out there and then someone else is going to do it. Have you ever heard of the show Point Break Live? It's
Uh-uh.
probably a thing that they do in LA. And there's more and more people doing this where they
Like the
will
movie
bring,
Point Break?
yeah, they'll perform the script, but they will bring up an audience member to play one part. I feel like someone should do that with these live narrations and just be like, okay, who wants to play? And like bring somebody up to like
That's
be
a
a character. Wouldn't that be
that's
fun?
yeah, that would be a good idea.
That would be good. Somebody do
We
that.
could do that. We could do that. We could say we're going to plan that, and then if you guys put your name in a pot, and we'll pick one and bring you on alive to do that.
Mhm.
That would be
Which
fun.
also I realize could be terrifying and something nobody wants to
Right.
do, but it could be fun. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that might be willing to do it. You might be
Yeah.
surprised.
It could be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I suppose should we give a little context before we dive in?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm trying to remember how old they are. I think Lyric is 18 at this point, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, and for anyone who hasn't read this yet, which, what are you doing? Get out there, get your copy. Um, Gabe and Lyric grew up together. Gabe's mother acted as Lyric's nanny, who was sort of like a second mother to her. And so they, from a very, very young age, have been inseparable, best friends, very close. And for a long time, things were just sort of, platonic and familial. But as soon as the hormones start to come in and things start changing, they start looking at each other differently. So this is sort of the accumulation of pining, and they're gonna maybe, well, you'll see. I guess. Do you have any idea what part this might be, Deb?
The car scene,
Maybe.
the
not.
hood of the car.
Maybe,
That would
maybe
be my
not.
guess. I don't know. When you say 18, but there could be more when she's
I know. I'm
18.
trying to remember. I know. I think she's 18. I'm trying. We had to ask for. Well, I asked for a list of their ages because each chapter, for some reason, I struggle as a narrator with dates when it's like October, whatever, 5 years later, or the year. And so I was like, help! I'm trying to keep track of how old they are because as a reader, I struggle with that too. When it's like a date, I'm like, wait, when is this? So yeah.
Well, actually,
I think
it was good to do that because it actually gave you the numbers up front instead of trying to pick them out from the
right, and like doing the math.
text. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. We ready?
Yeah, you're doing the heavy lifting. I'm just kind of along for the ride. So
Me. I know. All right. Gabriel's hand rested on my shoulder, causing me to crane my neck when I glanced up. What's wrong?
I need you to come with me.
Sure. I returned my attention to Aiden, who was on his feet. It was nice chatting with you again,
Yeah.
he said. But that was it. The guy was gone. Real helped me up, engulfing my hand with his, and led me around the building, stopping just before we were at the front. Then backed me up until I was pressed against the wall, both of his palms on either side of my head as he pierced me with eyes of black fire.
Next time you decide to come to the stables, put some damn clothes on, Lie.
I frowned. I am wearing clothes.
No.
His fingers slipped under the thin strap of my bikini top that peeked from the slouching shoulder of my cover-up.
This isn't clothes. It's a scrap of floral fabric.
I'm wearing something over it,
It's see-through and short.
he growled, and it was shiver-inducing in a good way. Letting my head rest on the wall, I licked my lips, undertaking a non-scientific test. Gabe's eyes were right there, watching me, sending a zing of excitement through my body. Slowly, I slipped my hand up his side, wishing I was caressing his skin and not a cotton shirt. Do you like it? Gaze lifting, he cocked a dark brow.
Like what?
My cover-up? He leaned in until his breath puffed against my ear and whispered,
Way too much.
My tummy jumped at his answer and thoughts of what I would do next, but Gabe's ringing cell phone had him pulling away. That electrical zap happening between us was gone. Real slipped the cell from the pocket of his tee, put the little device to his ear, and said,
Yeah, talk to me.
Gabriel glanced up, then did what he did at the pool. He looked at me in such a way. Goosebumps broke out on my arms in a scatter, and I wasn't cold.
Alea, I've got to go.
But I haven't told you what happened today,
Talk later.
he said, disconnecting the call, tossed his phone on the wrought iron table, and came to me in 3 steps.
Lie. What's wrong?
If this were a song, it would be about standing at a crossroads. Do I go left or right? Or do I walk straight ahead? My sensible side said if I went forward, I would be in for a world of hurt, because so many things could happen, and I could lose my reel completely. He was and always had been my best friend, and I never wanted to mess that up. But my reckless, more stubborn side, which usually got me into trouble, told me to plow straight ahead, because I wanted to be much more than friends. I made a snap decision to ask the one thing I'd been wondering about and poorly attempted to test at the stable. Do you care about me? The man scowled, and the chills became flames lapping at my skin.
Of course I do.
I shook my head. No, Gabe. I don't mean like a sister. I've never wanted to be your sister. It was quiet, except for the distant whinnies of the horses coming in from the pasture. But Gabe was so still, I wondered if he were holding his breath. I broke the silence with, "Do you want to know something?"
Tell me.
I may have lost all my marbles, because who at my age admits to such a thing, but I was going to. Straightening my spine, I locked any embarrassment into the vault, where a plethora of other emotions stayed hidden. I've never been kissed. He cocked a black brow. I've thought about this a lot and want you to be the first. 1, 2, 3, 4 heartbeats passed. Then Reel cupped the back of my neck in his palm.
Think long and hard about this lyric. Because if I kiss you, there's no going back.
Placing my hand over his heart, I freed the truth. I don't want to go back. He studied my face for the longest time, but I didn't look away.
Come on.
He took my hand and led me into the bedroom's seating area. Where are we going?
You'll see.
Wait. He didn't wait. You left your phone behind,
I'll get it later.
he said as we passed the bed. But what if someone calls?
They can leave a message or call back. I don't want any interruptions this time.
Out the door we went. This time,
If my phone hadn't intruded at the stable, what would you have done?
see if my touch affected you. He grinned.
I've got to grab something from my room.
Gabe let me go.
Head to the garage. I'll be there in a few.
Okay.
Yay! I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that, but that was great.
And then there's the pickup truck scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got it kind of interesting, I guess.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I love about that scene is I feel like there's so much unsaid that's happening, which I realize now is probably not great when you're trying to do a duet scene with someone, but that's one of the things that I loved was like the tension that you built in this is so good. I was literally, I read this so fast when I was doing my pre-read, and I was literally like, come on, so many times. Like, oh, like the number of times they get interrupted, or someone's about to say something, or they say something, and then they have to pivot. It was like, chef's kiss.
Well, you guys did a great job, and I know how hard it is to be like put on the spot to try to read something. How this came about is someone asked if they could read something live, and then someone else asked if they could do duet. And since my audiobooks aren't done in duet, they said, well, we could probably do it for a little piece of the live.
This is fun. We can do more
Yeah.
too. Like we could do
Yeah.
this again when we do Reaper. We should definitely do it.
Yeah. Well,
It'll
there'll
be
be
fun.
lots to choose from in Reaper.
Maybe we can make it a game. We can put some in a hat and play like Russian roulette.
Yeah. 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 The thing is that it will be interesting is that if you start with lyric, you're going to see their progression, and then you're going to see a difference between Gabriel and Reaper.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what people think when they realize all of the things that made him Reaper.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I was hoping to have an announcement tonight saying it's done, but things in life have happened. So
Yeah.
soon.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
When you wrap it up, what does that feel like? When you get to the end of a book and you're finished writing?
Oh, it's like a little celebration,
Yeah.
truly. Like, sometimes I'm like, yes. And other times I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh, we're done. But that's just the start of being done, because even when I'm done, then I have to go back through it. I
Yeah.
gotta fix it and tweak it, and then it moves on to my beta readers, and then on to the editor, and then back to me. And so we do this, being done the first time isn't actually being done, but it's still a great feeling.
Yeah.
Do
I
you have
feel
any? Sorry, I was just gonna ask. Do you have any like I completed this reward myself thing?
yeah, what's your
Uh,
ritual?
no, so now I know some people do, but I just am just so happy to be done that. Usually, what really truly happens is I've usually been in such a mindset for such a long time that I kind of take a break for a day or two and just kind of veg out.
Hmm.
And then I'll start on the next book immediately. And especially in a series, because I want that momentum to try to stay with me instead of walking away and coming back.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't always happen because, you're pulled away on other projects and other things. But
What do you think is harder, writing the story in the first place or having to go back and edit and do that sort of post stuff?
um, I don't really know. Editing isn't a horrible thing. Now, I know it is for some people. Like, it's the worst thing ever, but I actually enjoy the editing, and I'll tell you why. It's because when I send something to my beta readers and then they make comments like, yes, that really makes sense. It's like
Mm,
something that I didn't catch, or that needed to be added. And then when it goes off into the editing end, and then they say, well, you know what? Maybe you need to like expand on this here. And
yeah.
so it pushes you to make it better.
Hmm.
And so I'm not really one of those people that are like, oh, editing is horrible and awful and all that. Yeah, I've often said that I had an editor once that was an absolute, I mean to tell you, rip my butt. Okay.
Oh no.
But you know what? It was the best experience of my life because
Wow.
I learned so much. And I was
Hmm.
like, learned from that it made me a better writer.
Wow.
So the harder they were, the better the
Yeah.
outcome. And I took those lessons and I applied them, and I've never forgot them.
That's great.
Never. So editing to me isn't the hard part. I don't know. Probably what's the hardest part in truth is when I've had to step away for some reason and I have a break, like a
Hmm.
day 2, 3. Sometimes I've had a week break because of stuff that's going on and I can't get back to my manuscript. That's the hardest part, is getting back, because that mindset, that mood, that momentum and flow you had, you have to find it again.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part. And that once you're there, you don't want to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when something happens to like pull you away, you're like, "Arr."
Oh no.
So that's probably the hardest part, I think.
I always love learning about the process that you have.
Yeah.
And everyone's
Well,
is so personal too, I imagine.
oh yeah, everybody has a different way of doing things, but I find that a lot of authors that I know and have talked to, we all kind of have similar thought processes. It's
Hmm.
funny. It's like we all have a similar way of looking at things, or a similar way of dealing with certain stuff. I don't know why that is.
Hmm.
It might have something to do with the imagination, the creative side that we use of our brains. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just interesting that we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah. And probably validating too when you find out.
Yeah, especially when you talk to somebody else and they're like, yeah, I do that too. I used to think I was crazy,
Yeah.
but I do that too. My characters are real to me. They talk to me. It's like, oh, good. I'm not as nuts as I
Yeah.
think.
I feel that way too, where like I do voices all the time during my day. My husband and I talk to each other as weird characters. We're playing all the time. And I'm sure someone who's not in a creative field would be very like weirded out potentially by it. But then when I'm like, well, I'm an actor, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can do that. It's okay.
And you have
Not weird.
ideas hit you at weird times. Like I've literally been doing the most mundane thing and something hits me, or I've been in a store or a shop or a restaurant and something hits me, and I'll take out my phone, I'll turn on my little voice recorder app, and I'll tell myself, la, 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 you need to remember to do this because that's got to go in that scene, and people look at you like, what in the heck is wrong with that chick?
It's an author in the wild. That's awesome.
Exactly. Or, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, I got to write that down.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
yeah, I love what I do. And I truly mean that. I truly love what I do. It's not, the writing portion is not a job.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we got one more question here. It says, DL, you already know what your future book series for the series lineup, how much of the plots are formed before you start writing each book? Or do you write certain things for multiple books at the same time? Well, that's a good question, Julie. Um, I already have my characters lined up from the very start if I know it's going to be a series, because now some of them will come in at later times in the book, but I mostly have all my characters lined up from the beginning. As far as how the plots are formed, they just sort of come to me. And yes, I do write multiple books within the series at the same time sometimes. Like for instance, I've already have 2 books beyond Reaper started, because the idea for that story came to me, and so I started it so that when I get to them it's already there, if that makes sense. I don't sit down and write out plot lines or bullet points or anything like that. I totally write by the seat of my pants what my characters tell me to write. So if I'm writing something in Reaper that has to do with another character and it hits me during Reaper, I'll take a moment and write that down so that I can remember when I go back to it, if that makes sense. It's
That's
kind of a
cool.
willy-nilly way of writing, maybe.
Hey, it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
What software do you use?
I just use Word.
Okay.
Um, Now I know some authors use a lot of different things, but I just use Word. That's it. That's what I've always used. I guess it's kind of like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I know people use a lot of stuff, but I just use Word. And then a long time ago, there was this software that came out that would read your text. I got that a long time ago. It had nothing to do with the whole AI situation that,
Yeah, like a dictation thing.
yeah, it was like a dictation thing a long time ago. They've improved it quite a bit, but after I get done writing my entire story, I'll go back and listen to it because I'm listening if it works for your guys' end. So I
I've
do an
heard that's
extra
very
step.
helpful. I've heard that like hearing it out loud, you can catch mistakes easier, or kind of if something's clunky, you can fix
Yeah,
it
if
or
a
something.
sentence is
Yeah,
chopped or weird sounding or like,
yeah,
wait, that doesn't sound good, then hearing it. So I'm both, I'm a weird person. I'm a visual person and an auditory person at the same time.
yeah. I think that's an important di- why words are hard for me right now. It's an important thing to distinguish that there's a difference between these synthetic AI voices being used for narration and text to speech dictation things, which are often, accessibility devices for people. If someone
Right.
can't type, they can dictate. Or if someone, wants to read something, they can use a text to speech program so they can read it with their ears. So, like, those are very important, and they've kind of always been around, and they're very useful. So I do
Yeah.
feel like that's an important thing to distinguish the difference between those when, thinking back to the AI chat we were having earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had that program forever.
Yeah.
And I've never changed from it either. So, it works.
That's great.
It's not like I could call you guys up and go, hey, would you read this for me and tell me if it were, I need to hear it.
But if you did, I would. I would stop everything. I'd be like, hold on, I have a very important work call right now. And then it would be something funny.
You're like,
Pretty
oh,
wild.
okay, hold right there. I got to fix that. Okay, let me fix it. All right, now go.
Yeah. The readers are waiting for Reaper. I have to take this call. We have to know what this sounds like.
Yeah, they really are. I've been sort of surprised and happy at
Yeah.
um, how Reaper has been embraced as a character. So
Yeah.
it's a great thing, I
Well,
guess.
I'm excited for you. It sounds like you're getting close to the
Yes, I
countdown
was
here.
hoping to make the announcement tonight that it was done and starting in the phases that all the different mini phases of the editing portion.
Right.
But I'm hoping to make that announcement in the next day or two.
It'll be very exciting when you do. We'll all celebrate. But
Yeah, we
no
will.
pressure, no rush.
Well, there's kind
No
of a little
rush.
bit of a rush. There's kind of a
Everyone's
little
banging
bit of
down
a
your
rush.
door. Yeah.
There's kind of a little bit of a rush.
No rush. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? The other day I thought about this because, you know, we talk a lot behind the scenes and I was writing something. I said, you know what? I'm going to ask MK and Eric what they think about this. But then I got derailed, so I never asked you. But I might do that.
Yeah.
I might do that
My
when we get
DMs are
off.
open.
When we get off the live, I might mention it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, we've been on here a little while, so we probably ought to call this live good. We appreciate you guys tuning in, asking all the questions. And you know what? We always get really good questions.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, so we really appreciate it. We appreciate you listening to the audiobooks, leaving reviews. It means a lot to us. And the reviews aren't to stoke our egos, but they're just to let us know that you enjoyed it, you liked it, you hated it. We do take to heart, what you guys say. Like, if you thought something needed to be, at least I do, if you thought something needed to be better here or there, and that's like, that stays in my mind when I work on the next book. So we appreciate it. We appreciate it. MK and Eric, would you like to say anything before we call it a night?
Oh, I do want to say one thing. I am trying to see if I can record live and do live narration on TikTok, but I have to have 1,000 followers, which
Yes.
is a very daunting task. So if
Yes.
you are on TikTok and you want to connect over there, I appreciate it. I'll follow you back. My handle is the same on all my socials. It's always MK Blackwood Narrator. Appreciate the follow, but it's optional. You don't have to. But that's all I'll say. That's going on.
Yeah, it would be nice if they would just let us do lives, right?
Even half, like 500 followers, I feel like is much more attainable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
How about you, Eric?
Nah, I got nothing. Thanks for letting me hang out.
Well, you're very welcome. We are so happy that you got to hang out with us. Oh gosh, she always cracks me up.
I know.
Okay, guys, we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you at another time. Thank you.
Farewell.
Bye.